1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. I know we had breakfast. So, let's do it again. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Yes, a nice Grenadian spirit. My task is very simple. It's to welcome everybody. Thank you for coming to this public sector forum, which is the second day of the engagement of the ICT week. The Chamber of Commerce, Chamber of Industry and Commerce in Grenada is proud to be the host of this engagement. Honorable Lennox Andrews, Minister for Economic Development, Planning, ICT, and the Creative Arts. Mr. Findley Jeffrey, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Economic Development. Mr. Vince Roberts, Chairman of Grenada National Telecommunication Regulatory Commission. Pettifer Lewis, Executive Director of the Grenada Industry Chamber of Commerce. Chamber of Industry and Commerce. Imagine, I'm messing that up too. She's been preaching that for us all week, for everybody. Miss Neela Saras, who is the Vice President of Stakeholder Engagement, North American Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers, ICANN. Bevel Wooden, Director of Caribbean Affairs, American Registry for Internet Numbers, ERIN. Stephen Lee, Director Program Development, Caribbean Network Operators Group, CARIBNOG. Mr. Nate Davis, who is from ERIN's Government Affairs Department. Ladies and gentlemen, all guests, all stakeholders, sponsors, I welcome you to the second day of this engagement. And just to let you know, we have an online viewing community that supported very well yesterday, and we expect as the day go on, it will increase. At this time, I would like to bring the Lord into our midst as is customary, so I would invite the Executive Director of the Chamber of Commerce to do so.
Thank you, Kenny. Good morning. Could we all please stand? It's not very often I get the opportunity to pray in public. After the prayer, I'd ask you to please remain standing for the national anthem. As is customary, before we start anything here in Grenada, we invite the presence of the Holy Spirit to guide us, to be with us here today, and for all the activities that we're going to be engaging in. We ask for your guidance, your knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. And I say also, I will lift mine eyes up unto the hills, for whence cometh my help. My help cometh from the Lord, which made heaven and earth. He shall not suffer my foot to be moved. He that keepeth me would not slumber. Behold, he that keepeth Israel shall neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord is my keeper. The Lord is a shade upon my right hand. The sun shall not smite me by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord shall preserve me from all evil, and he shall preserve my going out and my coming in, from this time forth and even forevermore. And I say that on behalf of all of us. Amen.
Amen.
We shall now have the national anthem.
Hands in unity to reach out of God. Be proud of our heritage. May we with faith and courage aspire, build, advance as one people, one family. God bless our nation.
Thank you very much. You may be seated.
Most of you today would be wondering, what is this about? I may not be an IT techie person. Why am I here? I have things to do in my office. It is an important part of understanding our future. In fact, the future is now. The Chamber of Commerce decided to partner with international agencies to bring a sense of awareness. And the conversation today is much larger. It's not a stiff where you're going to just be hearing techie stuff. It's a bringing an awareness to the public sector of pieces of what the business sector got yesterday and understanding that this is the future. The future is where we are together, understanding what is technology. Essentially, technology is simply the practical application of scientific knowledge. One of my co-conspirators, excuse me, morning tight, tongue tight, in this venture is Mr. Beverly Wood. And he would start off the proceedings, yes, in also giving you an insight. And throughout the day, you'll be getting deeper insight as to why we're here, why we're sitting here today. Hopefully, by the end of the session, it will become clearer as we open up the door as much as we can in the limited time we have. Mr.
Mr. Andrews, colleagues at the head table, ladies and gentlemen, in the room and online, good morning. Good morning, and welcome to day 3 of our ICT week. My task this morning, to fulfill the commission that I was just given, is to give you a sense of why we're here. Not just why we're here in this meeting on this day in this place, but why we're here in terms of this season, this time, this opportunity that we have to actually tangibly make a difference. Many of you in this room would know and would have heard repeatedly over the years the importance of technology, the promise of technology, the requirement for Grenada, Grenadians, the Eastern Caribbean, and wider Caribbean to make full use of technology. That part, I believe, is beyond debate at this point in time. Technology does matter. It is changing lives. It is no longer a question of a future to come. It is upon us. Look at the structure of your daily life. Look at the devices in your pockets and in your bags and around you in your offices and in your workplaces and in your communities. And we know we are in the digital future that was once prophesied. That's a fact. But it is also a fact that we have not, as a country, as a sub-region, or as a Caribbean, made full or optimal use of technology. And there are reasons for that. And some of the reasons are well exhausted. We don't have the infrastructure. Our countries, our communities, our economies are too small. We don't have the right kind of political will. We lack the capital required to compete with the big boys, etc., etc., etc. Some of those things have an element of truth to them, but most shroud a more profound reality. And that reality is that we haven't always, as a people, and this is not restricted to Grenada or Grenadians, we haven't always fully understood the components, the elements, the anatomy of the digital economy. And without that understanding, we can't adequately position ourselves to get the most of it. And for several across the region, I represent the American Registry for Internet Numbers. I have colleagues here from other internet organizations or IORGs. We have LACNIC, the Latin American Internet Registry, ARIN's sister organization in that system. We have ICANN, the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers. We have the technical folk from CARIBNOG, the Caribbean Network Operators Group. We have partnered with the Grenada Chamber of Industry and Commerce and others, because there is an implicit recognition that no one institution, no one organization can confront the challenges of building the digital economy without the support, without the collaboration, without the information sharing, without the ideas exchange of other related stakeholders. And so in the construct of this week and in the construct of this day, what you are seeing is a composite or collective effort of stakeholders in the industry and in the society with one common goal in mind: to ensure that our country, to ensure that our people, and to ensure that our region gets the most out of the already invested, significantly invested position that we have in this digital future. And I say this knowing that many of you had already heard scary and damning things like, if we don't do what we must, we will surely die, right? And there's an extent to which such dramatic statements have an element of truth to them. And we're already seeing the death of certain industries because the Caribbean is losing its competitiveness. We're already seeing the diminishing of certain long-standing economic pillars because the Caribbean is losing its competitive global edge. And inside and behind and underlying that is, again, this recurring theme of how are we using information and communications technologies to do that which we desire to do. So Grenada is small, yes. Its population is small, yes. Its economy is, relative to global economies, minuscule, yes. But its ambitions, its aspirations, its desires are as large and as significant as anyone else's anywhere else in the world. And that is why we are here. We are here because we are saying that it is more than reasonable for us to expect and to desire the best for ourselves, for our people, and our region. And if we are to aspire to the best, we then have to do that which is required to attain it. And attain it sometimes means doing things differently, doing things that have proven to be difficult but not impossible. One of the difficult things that is not impossible is working together. One of the difficult things that is not impossible is having government, the public sector, collaborating with the private sector and civil society for the greater good. Does it mean kumbaya and the absence of selfish interest? No. It means the alignment of interests because we have described the challenge in a way that all groups can understand. And that's why we have the structure that we have for this week. Yesterday we had the business forum, where the business community largely gathered to understand not whether or not technology is important, but to understand what can we now align ourselves to do to make sure that we can drive public policy, drive communities, drive economic development in a way that is in alignment with that larger mandate and mission. Today, we have the Public Policy Forum, and I heard some very interesting discussions. Well, I'm a public sector leader, and I'm quite busy, so I'll send the tech guys or gals to this meeting because it has a technology component to it. That's not the purpose of today's meeting. Today's meeting is actually to make that connection, that linkage between the requirement for advance in the economy and requirement for advance in social empowerment and the necessary facilitating public policy levers that have to be turned. That is not a discussion simply for the technical guys and gals to have. That's a discussion for policymakers, for regulators, to put their voices to the how of digital transformation. We know what we would like to do, sometimes in very general terms. We would like to be better or we would like to be the best, but there is a how. And today, and not only today, but today, we begin a new conversation with some familiar themes, but with a new emphasis. I said it yesterday and I'll repeat it again today. This is not an event. It is an initiative that starts with today's event. And the initiative involves different stakeholders looking at the same problem from different angles, but all coming at it with one singular goal in mind: to make Grenada better, to make opportunities for our people, to shine as a light in the region so others could see how it is done. That's the purpose. Is it beyond us? Is it more than is reasonable to ask? My basic position, which is why we're all here, is that it is not. Every single person on that table's position, which is why we are all here, is that it is not impossible. In fact, it is imperative. It is imperative for us to start a new conversation from a different angle, with a different sense of a long-term objective of transforming how we leverage the available information and communication technology tools, not just how we import it or how we maintain it, but how we create it, how we produce it, how we utilize it to make opportunities where there are no opportunities obvious and before us. And that is why we have this group of persons on the head table. That is why we have and have invited those of you in the audience and those who are tuning in online from around the world to hear this new conversation on this old topic. This new conversation on this old topic. And so one of the agencies that has committed to be part of this initiative is the Caribbean Telecommunications Union, the CTU. The CTU, for years, has been a partner of Grenada in its digital transformation agenda. And now under new leadership, Mr. Rodney Taylor is the new Secretary General of the CTU. It is redoubling its efforts to ensure that we get the most out of this. And I want to invite Mr. Rodney Taylor, who has submitted a video presentation to kick things off with some welcoming remarks and to set the public sector forum in its context. So I'll just ask the guys to get his video queued up, and he will be giving us the CTU's perspective on why we're here. And as they do that, let me just ask again and invite you all, just get a signal of agreement as to whether this intention that we have, which is to have a public sector discussion that links to our private sector interests, that connects to a community-oriented desire to see a difference, to make change, to move from talk to action, if that is in fact the collective will of those of you who have made it out here this morning. Just by a show of hands, is this what we came here for today? Right? Not just to hear presenters talk, but if we came, I know some of you might have come for the lovely lunch that was promised to, but before the lunch, if we have an interest in actually moving from talk to action, just let me know, is this what we're looking for? Because the structure of the day is like that. We have presenters, but more than presenting, they're here to trigger a conversation. They're here to identify priorities that we can then have as programs for the NTRC, programs for the government, programs for the chamber, that will allow us to push things forward till we get to the goal, until we get to the prize. Right, so are we ready with the video? Let's go. This is Rodney Taylor, Secretary General of the Caribbean Telecommunications Union. Rodney?
Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed government officials and members of the local business community, I bring you greetings at the Grenada ICT Week from the Caribbean Telecommunications Union, the CTU. I want to thank the partners and organizers of Grenada ICT Week for hosting this forum and bringing attention at the national level of the importance of embracing the digital age. I am sorry that I am unable to join you in the beautiful Spice Isle of Grenada because I am with a delegation from the Caribbean, including several government ministers, to the World Mobile Congress in Barcelona. Around the same time last year, we were in Grenada, signing the Declaration of St. George's towards the elimination of intra-carriacou roaming charges. I'm happy to report that the major operators in the market have since then implemented new roaming arrangements that will help to drive down the cost of doing business inter-regionally and encourage the use of voice and data services as people move through the CARICOM single ICT space. Grenada is uniquely positioned as it has the lead within the CARICOM quasi-cabinet for science and technology, including information and communications. It is important, therefore, that it leads by example and that within both the public and private sectors, there's a great push towards the adoption of technology to not just improve product and service delivery, but to deliver new products and services regionally and internationally. The United Nations E-Government Development Index, published in 2022, notes that Grenada has remained in the high EGDI group and has made the most notable progress in e-government development in the region, increasing its value from 0.581 in 2020 to 0.727 in 2022. This is largely due to significant improvements in online services provision and efforts to strengthen the telecommunications infrastructure. Are we where we want to be? Not at all. But we are headed in the right direction despite the many challenges small island developing countries face with the adoption of technology. This forum will help to advance awareness at the national level and hopefully give a further push to efforts that are already underway. In today's fast-paced world, it is essential that we keep abreast of global technology trends and leverage the potential of information and communication technology to improve government services, empower our communities, and accelerate development. The range of technology here on display at MWC is astounding. Technology to enable telemedicine, smart cities, next generation networks like 5G, the Internet of Things, fintech, are already available on the market today and disrupting existing business models. What are the implications for the Caribbean? Do these technologies present opportunities or challenges for Grenada? I want to suggest that they provide both opportunities and challenges. They represent opportunities to improve the lives of the citizens of Grenada and make life more convenient. With digital tools like online portals and mobile apps, citizens can easily access government services and information from anywhere at any time. Online service delivery, in particular, has been around for a very long time. We need now at this stage to ensure that as far as possible, every service is accessible digitally, whether it is on a computer, smartphone, kiosk, or by any means. I am pleased that Grenada has already established a government portal as well as a payment portal offering a wide range of services. These are foundational to the building of a digital economy. Of course, the legal and regulatory framework are important as well to ensure that citizens are secure as they interact in a digital environment. Ladies and gentlemen, by embracing ICT, we can empower our communities and increase participation in government decision making. With digital platforms like social media, citizens can voice their opinions and engage in meaningful discussions with government officials and with each other. This can lead to greater transparency and accountability in government and can help to build trust and cooperation between citizens and officials. Of course, there is also the potential for misuse and spreading of false information, and it is important that such issues are appropriately addressed through regulation and also public education. Finally, by embracing ICT, we can accelerate development and improve our region's economic competitiveness. With digital tools like e-commerce and online marketplaces, small businesses can reach customers on a global scale and compete with larger companies in their industry. Additionally, by utilizing digital infrastructure and platforms, we can attract foreign investment and promote innovation and entrepreneurship in the region. I will end by stating what you perhaps already know. Technology is the easy part. Solutions are readily available. As I mentioned, I am amazed at the range of technologies being demonstrated here at this global conference. And I have been in this field for quite some time. But it is not just about technology. More importantly, it's about changing the way we think and operate within the private and public sectors. It is about a willingness to experiment and innovate and to embrace a culture of continuous improvement. We need to be willing to listen to our citizens and our customers and respond to their needs and concerns. And we need to be willing to collaborate with each other at the national, regional, and international level. Sovereignty is great, but let's not make it a hindrance within the Caribbean community. In closing, I want to thank you for this opportunity to address you today, and again regret that I'm not able to do so in person. I hope to be there soon and to work with you to support your national digital transformation efforts. The CTU was established for this very reason, albeit in a different technological era. Its mandate has more relevance now than ever. I wish you success for the remainder of the forum. See you soon. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Rodney. There's so much to unpack in the statements from the CTU, but what I want us to get is this. We're doing a lot, and a lot of it is not seen, heard, or understood. We are doing a lot. Grenada is actually ranking very highly on several indices. But here's the problem with those statistics. If the people don't feel it, if it doesn't impact every day in a real way the daily lives of ordinary human beings, then what do those statistics matter? And so in conversations with the CTU, in conversations with the IORGs, we recognize that there is more that needs to be done than just seeing where we are on global rankings. We have to get to the solutions that touch people in a real way every day. And that is why we are here, and that's why some of the organizations are here. I'd like to invite to the podium, just to give some welcome remarks, Mr. Nate Davis from the American Registry for Internet Numbers, ARIN. Nate will say why ARIN, a US-based nonprofit organization, has an interest in supporting and standing alongside Grenada in its digital transformation agenda. Mr. Davis, let's welcome him.
Yes, good morning. I hope everybody's doing well today. It's wonderful to be a part of this event. We hope that all of you have very productive discussions today, and I want all of you to know that ARIN is very committed, as we've always been, to helping support continuing development here in the Caribbean, particularly here in Grenada. You know, it's interesting, I was here about 10 or 15 years ago, and it's lovely to be back and see some familiar faces again, and I'm hoping to the opportunity to meet many of you. But again, I think Bevel's words are really right on point, which is, you know, today's discussions are part of a longer journey. It's not an event, and we hope to be able to support you on that journey, and look forward to talking to you more later today. Thank you again.
Thank you, Nate. We have, as I said, also at their table representatives from ICANN and from the Grenada NTRC. Both of them gave their greetings yesterday, and I'll just say on their behalf, good morning, hi, they can wave. Neela, yeah, no, I was just going to basically say that we would acknowledge that. Yes, so they give their greetings on behalf of the team, and you will be hearing from them throughout the day. At this point, I'm going to hand back over to our Master of Ceremonies, my colleague and friend, Mr. Kenny John.
Morning once again. It is said that if we don't do something other than which we have already mastered or grown accustomed to, we'll never grow. I said those words yesterday, and I'm going to say it throughout the conference. For us to put in context what we have to do as a nation. At this time, it gives me great pleasure to introduce and welcome to the podium our Minister for Economic Development and Planning, ICT and the Creative Arts, Minister Lennox Andrews.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed. Mr. John. So I'm extremely happy to be here with you this morning. I want to recognize Mr. Finley Jeffrey, our Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of ICT. Ms. Pettifer Lewis from the Chamber, and other Chamber representatives, Mr. Vincent Roberts, our Chairman of the Grenada National Telecommunications Regulatory Commission, Ms. Niara Saras, Vice President of Stakeholder Engagement, North American Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers, ICANN, Mr. Beverly Wooding, Director of Caribbean Affairs, American Registry for Internet Numbers, ARIN, and I want to say to Mr. Bevan, I'm so impressed with his vocabulary this morning. They were indeed very touching. Mr. Stephen Lee, Director, Program Development, Caribbean Network Operators Group. Other invited guests, all those who are online, the media, ladies and gentlemen. I have before me a prepared text, which I will read. But the truth is that after listening to Rodney and to listening to Maven, I get a vibes, I get a rhythm, I get an enthusiasm that make me no longer want to read the text, but to just speak. Speak on the importance of what I've heard. So I want to say to you that you guys are doing something extremely good, good for the region, and good for the country. But what strikes me most is I get a sense of humanity in your vocabulary. Here we have bright, intelligent West Indians, Caribbean people, with a strong sense of wanting to see the islands develop, eradicating poverty, making use of the most recent technology to bring a better life to our people and to our region. I think this is the most humblest of ideals a person can have. And I really want to commend you, gentlemen, for such strong ideals of wanting to help people and wanting to see our region move forward. So I'm going to read now. As we celebrate Grenada ICT Week under the theme, Investing in the Digital Future Today, as Minister for ICT, I am pleased to participate in this public sector forum, which focuses on government in the digital age, improving service, empowering communities, and accelerating development, and to share with you the plans and work of my ministry in this transformative space. I begin with the basic economic concept that government's role in the economy should be mainly that of a facilitator and a regulator. However, in this digital age, government needs to create its own digital infrastructure if it is to effectively regulate and facilitate economic activity. I say this because we are living in a highly charged digital age where much of the conduct of our lives and businesses is driven and regulated by internet technology. In this paradigm, not only does government services must be digital, but government has to ensure that the enabling technological environment and proper legislative framework are in place for the digital functioning of its services and those of the private sector. And of equal priority and of equal importance, government must ensure that its citizens are knowledgeable, skilled, and well-equipped to be able to fully participate and function at optimum levels in this exciting new digital environment. It's in this context, ladies and gentlemen, that I want to stress that all citizens must have equitable access to reliable and secure internet connectivity and must have smart devices to go online. There must be no barrier to what must be literally considered a basic commodity. Where this gap exists, we must seek to quickly identify and bridge them or remove them in real time. This is the present thrust of our ministry at this point in time. As such, I feel pleased and reassured to see the number of stakeholder groups here, organizations and businesses, collaborating to make this week a success. I get a sense that what we're doing in Grenada is that we're doing something that is good. So I want to congratulate all of you and wish you great success in your deliberations as the week unfolds. Growing up, I learned that man has 3 basic needs: food, clothing, and shelter. Today, however, it seems to me that to this list, we must add another: internet connectivity. Whether we like it or not, if Grenada and the other Caribbean societies are to grow, develop, and keep pace with the rest of the world, we must stay on the cutting edge of development in technology. As we examine this in the context of the wider Caribbean region, with its rich and diverse population and economies, one must admit that the Caribbean as a whole has been faced with various challenges in the development and strengthening of its public sectors. The thrust towards e-government to incorporate technology into every aspect of public sector service delivery has become increasingly important to the region. E-government enhances transparency and accessibility to delivery of services. It provides convenient and reliable access, not just to citizens at home, but also to the extremely large and important migrant Caribbean populations in the diaspora, resulting in greater revenue collection and generation for revenue for regional governments. Correspondingly, it acts as an easy and accessible springboard for international players seeking to do business in the Caribbean region, or to those who desire to live and work remotely from our beautiful shores. Presently, the Ministry of ICT here in Grenada is pursuing 2 projects that will digitally transform public service delivery and create a marked cultural shift in the way we think and do business in Grenada. And that aspect about how we think is extremely important. These projects are the Digital Governance for Resilience Project, which we commonly call DG4R, and the Caribbean Transformation Digital Project, CADIP. DG4R seeks to achieve the overall goal of a fully digital public service and society. It aims firstly to build the enterprise architecture and enabling institutional, regulatory, and technological environment to construct and deliver e-services. It has 3 main components. The first component will deliver a document management system to register, archive, and preserve critical government records. Together with the digitization of key government records, 3 cross-cutting foundational digital platforms will also be delivered. An electronic payment system, which will allow the government, citizens, and businesses to transact payments in a seamless and secure way. A single sign-on digital identifier platform, which will allow citizens to set up simple and unique digital identities via login and passwords to access e-services via a single sign-on mechanism. and a spatial data platform which will enable government agencies to generate and access spatial three-dimensional data to facilitate better record keeping, revenue generation, and post-disaster assessment and decision making. The second component will build on the foundation introduced under the first component to offer two high-impact e-services platforms. One is a civil registry, where citizens can apply for birth, death, marriage, and adoption certificates and pay for them online or in person. And the other is a tax administration system, where citizens can access core tax services and the government can perform core tax administrative processes in a digital environment that is accessible online at kiosk and in person. The third component will facilitate activities to strengthen the technical and project management capacity of the public sector to transition to a digital service delivery environment, as well as ensure that the public sector, citizens, and businesses develop digital literacy and awareness skills necessary to navigate the improvements introduced under the first two components. A change management strategy is currently being implemented by a renowned change management company, Ernst & Young, to ensure that project interventions are internalized and utilized effectively by the public sector and citizens. My friends, but even as we speak of digitization and e-government services, the aspect of cybersecurity cannot be forgotten. As such, I must speak on CARDIP, the second digital transformation project. Just shy of 2 years into its implementation phase, the CARDIP aims to build trust in online transactions and to strengthen the security and resilience of digital infrastructure and systems. Under my ministry, this project is on track to realizing its goals. An ongoing initiative of my ministry under this project that I must highlight here is the Grenada CSIRT Cybersecurity Incident Response Team. Launched just about 9 months ago, CSIRT GND has made tremendous inroads and gained significant and visible uptake in educating and helping Grenadian citizens and businesses stay safer online. The CSIRT will eventually morph into a full-fledged national cybersecurity agency. Grenada is also working towards and will soon pass its Data Protection Act, which will lead to the establishment of a data commission. The project will also deliver during the first half of this year a host of digital skills training initiatives done in partnership with the National Training Agency aimed at enhancing the capacity of public officers and the general public so they will acquire the required skill sets necessary to efficiently function and be productive in this new digital paradigm. Ladies and gentlemen, while technology has enormous potential to promote public sector development, there are also several challenges that need to be addressed. Chief among them, the digital divide, where even now many citizens lack access to basic digital infrastructure. This, of course, limits their ability to participate in the digital economy and access online government services. On a regional level, the CARICOM Digital Skills Task Force has been working diligently over the past 2 years to identify these gaps and to offer solutions for bridging them. To this end, I am pleased to announce that my ministry is vigorously pursuing a mandate to make Wi-Fi access a public good. Wi-Fi must be a public good. And if there is one thing as minister that I would like to do for my country and for my people, is to make Wi-Fi accessible to all Grenadians and to everybody wherever you are, wherever you are, throughout the whole country. Yeah? And we are working vigorously towards achieving that. So we are aggressively working to create public Wi-Fi hotspots in parks and tourism sites to boost the free Wi-Fi access that is already available in schools and community centers as a result of the CASI project, which is a regional initiative funded by the World Bank and geared towards increasing access to regional broadband networks in Grenada, St. Vincent, and St. Lucia. So now, I want to mention something special to you and to congratulate Flo and our local NTRC as stakeholder partners in what is referred to as the JUMP project. JUMP is an initiative of the Government of Grenada and Cable and Wireless, facilitated by the NTRC, to provide affordable broadband connection and a computer, a laptop, to 1,500 of the most economically challenged households and families. The program has a training component which will be developed by Cable and Wireless to improve the digital literacy of the beneficiaries. And we must give this as one good example as public-private partnership in socializing, if I may say, socializing the internet and socializing the digital transformation. And therefore, as I conclude, I give the assurance and firm commitment that this administration is committed, fully committed, to the development of the ICT sector, and we will work closely and collaboratively with all stakeholders as we continue to monitor and respond in real time to this dynamic and emerging field. I take this opportunity to again thank the Grenada Chamber of Industry and Commerce, all the sponsors, the partners who have made the celebration of ICT Week in Grenada possible and a likely big success. I want to say a special welcome to all our visitors and friends from the region and from abroad as well. And let us remember, as famed historian Arthur Schlesinger once said, science and technology revolutionize our lives, but memory, tradition, and myth frame our response. And therefore, while you are here, please take some time to enjoy a slice of our spice. Make the time to get to know each other, to leverage friendship and partnership as we work cohesively to foster a powerful ITC space in our region. And finally, I want to give my full commitment to Rodney and the head table to making Grenada an example, a model for others to follow in the area of digital transformation. I'm saying to you that I will assemble, and I've already assembled, the finest minds in technology in this country and put them to work for the betterment of our people and for giving our people a much better life. So you can count on me and you can call on me. And if you have any problems, don't be afraid to pick up the phone or send me a line and call on me. Because if there is one sector that can transform our economy and give our people a better life, it has to be information, communication, and technology. Thank you all very much.
Thank you in truly Minister Lennox Andrews' style. My purpose here, apart from being president of the Chamber of Commerce, is basically to bridge some gaps. We in our society look at things as there's the public sector and then there's the private sector. And we don't usually view ourselves as being in the same space working for the same objective. Putting in context the way we have to turn our minds, I'd like to say some things to you. One, what you know as existed before that separates the public and private sector will be a thing of the past. Minister Andrews pointed out public-private partnership. Well, that is going to be something that you can expect. The public sector will have to come to expect far more partnerships in significant areas. I can give you a few examples, and it has happened right here in the Caribbean, that has transformed industries. Just to give you a context of what I'm speaking of. Trinidad gained independence early 1960s. The then Prime Minister said that in order for insurance companies, banks to operate in Trinidad, 51% of those companies must be Trinidadian. Wow. And you wonder what that has to do with your existence here. Well, the regulatory framework had to be put in place, and public sector then became an engine for making sure that that private sector initiative was successful. What happened? What we know as Republic Bank today took over the Imperial Bank of Canada. And what we would have known as carriacou took over what you call Federation Life, again, a Canadian company. Trinidad then expanded a whole industry, financial services, and became the mecca of financial services in the Caribbean. Yes? It did not happen simply by just the individual companies or the CEOs or the shareholders saying, okay, this is where we want to be. It took an engagement and a policy position of the government. And then the public sector got involved with regulatory oversights, etc., etc. In carriacou's case, maybe a little bad example, but let's put it this way. In the University of the West Indies, the model in terms of what they have created and what they did create as the largest company in the Caribbean exists today as a study point and wider field. The point I'm making is that what you have to expect in the public sector is everything will change. And you will find that there are a number of industries that Grenada and ultimately the Eastern Caribbean, let's take a simple one, telecoms. You may well find that rather than having a telecom company in each island of the Eastern Caribbean, we may have to set up our own telecommunication company. The technology is there for us to be able to do that. All it takes is government initiative to be the stakeholder, the major partner. What does that mean? on the Eastern Caribbean Stock Exchange, yes, it would be perhaps the largest trading organization, which can allow not only government as a stakeholder, but individuals in the EC to buy shares, thus transforming a pan-Eastern Caribbean organization, institution. And that's just one industry. We're going to keep talking about more. At this time, I'd like to invite to the podium just some brief remarks. Naila Sears from ICANN.
Thank you all. Honorable Minister, this was truly inspiring this morning. My name is Naila Saras, as my colleagues have said. This has been a wonderful couple of days to just see this. I feel like we are making history here, and we get to be part of it, and it's truly remarkable. As has been said, I'm part of the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers. What we really do isn't visible to all of you, but it's so vital as you embark on this digital transformation journey. We manage inner resources, technical identifiers on the internet that enable much of this, what we're talking about, to happen. Very specifically, we're talking about domain names, top-level domain names, IP addresses, and other things that we call protocol parameters. As I think about this, as I'm sitting here thinking about this, as we are here as partners, whatever we can do, and as Bevel has said continuously, this is a journey and we're all committed for the long haul, and we'll all be here watching this great transformation happen. And as you embark on your transformation, please remember that your participation in organizations like what mine does, what Nate's organization as Aaron does, and LACNIC and other organizations here, we need your participation, we need your voice, because the policies that are developed and will be developed that rule pretty much the experience that we all have on the internet need your input, need your voice. So we're here imploring you to please be involved. Please let it be known what you need. If certain structures, the way they exist, don't work for you, this is your time to please participate. Participate as a region, participate as this wonderful transformation that's happening here in Grenada. Whatever it takes, please participate in these international organizations that are pretty much determining how our internet is operating. And will continue to operate for generations to come, because as the Honorable Minister said, this is not for us, this is for our children, for their access during pandemic. God forbid how, we've gone through a horrible one. We can't guarantee that we're not going to through others. Access to information and computers and being able to learn online was vital for their continued growth. And this will become even more and more important going forward. So congratulations on all the great initiatives that we're hearing about today. We're here as partners, and if there's anything we can do, I look forward to speaking with you the rest of this week and continuing to partner in future, not events, future developments in this initiative. Thank you.
Again, if we don't do something other than which we have already mastered or grown accustomed to, we will never grow. This is about infrastructure. When we think of infrastructure, we think of roads, we think of the foundation of a building. Well, digital infrastructure is equally important. It's vital to economic development. It is vital to socially development. And they both must go together. I said, in promoting these events, I've been asked several times, do you think Grenada is ready? Let me ask, how many of you have one of these? I'm sure everyone. I see people using it while we're here. Well, we are walking IP addresses. Every cell phone that you have, and all the devices that are connected now that you have at home, guess what? What do they use? So understanding infrastructure, yes? This is about letting you understand that, hey, what's behind all of this? Because we take it for granted. So it's not a matter of if we're ready. It's a matter of we're in it, we're using it. And therefore, why shouldn't we own part of it to direct where we move forward? So at this time, I would like to call Mr. Vince Roberts, Chairman of NTRC, just to say a few remarks.
Thank you very much. I didn't see that one coming. No, I'm never short for words. And I've been around the environment, the ecosystem, for quite a number of years. And I'm really pleased to see more and more this level of discussion taking place in Grenada. We have made some significant progress just by interacting here. Albert Daniel, for example, has assisted us in updating our administrative contact. He has enlightened us on some of the things taking place. And Bevel, for example, he's constantly feeding new information in. And we were chatting last night and thought, you know, it would be a good idea to share with you some of the things taking place with the NTRC. Now, the NTRC is the best kept secret in Grenada. Very much so. And we're in the process of changing this because we realized, for example, that the last USF, Universal Service Fund project that we launched, an emergency communication system, which Beverly, I think we'll get an opportunity to share shortly, which we will share shortly. It is something that has been lacking in Grenada. We funded the project, Universal Service Fund, you all know how that works. We launched the project, and I don't think the government ministers are even aware of it. One minister participated, the Prime Minister is briefed. It is not functioning the way it ought to be, simply because one or two stakeholders have not really bought into it. So you have a few $1 million worth of project not being fully utilized. And I think one of the problems is sharing this information and selling it. And talking about selling, Bevel and Pettifer, we were chatting this morning about one of my pet projects, which I think is critical for building a digital economy. We can have all of the equipment, all of the systems, all of the processes. People can have all of the devices, and you can get online and buy goods and services. But in Grenada and many Caribbean countries, you cannot deliver these physical goods because we do not have an address infrastructure. And you cannot tell somebody wanting a hot pizza or a hot oil dung in Grenada, this is our national dish, that I live 2 houses after a mango tree and, you know, this kind of thing. Or as a former commissioner of police, when we went to Cuba, he took his mark on a man smoking a pipe on his veranda. You'll get lost, right? Well, I am saying that if physical address infrastructure is a public good, which we cannot delay any longer in implementing. We already have some of the basic work being done. The fact that we have a cadastral unit in the tax department. But this is a project which the private sector could buy into. The utility companies, whoever it is, need to buy into this thing and to demand that we move towards establishing that address infrastructure. We cannot go forward with all of the systems that we have. So this is a great opportunity for the private sector to work with the government of Grenada. The NTRC is willing to facilitate it. We can put a steering committee together. Bevel has some great contacts, and we can get this process going, and it will be a beautiful outcome from this. Thank you very much, and I will again wish you all the best.
Does anyone know the number of the pole that is outside of their house? The electric pole. Guess what? They all have numbers. So the reality of actually having a digital address is not outside the grasp. Today is about practical application. Today is about bringing the things that we already have that we never thought about. Yes? And while we reimagine that to transform, we have to also think about transcendency, going way beyond that. Thank you to the head table for providing us with such stimulating conversation. The day has just started. I'd like to ask the head table, and please bear with us for a few photo-taking ops, yes, as we get ready for the meat of the matter. The minister is busy, and we are thankful that he has graced our presence this morning to engage, inform, and deliver. And some of those projects that he has cited, I'm sure we did not know. And we have to keep turning over in our mind, what is the importance? Guess what? If we are not pulling public policy, yes, by having data protection laws, by understanding consumer protection going forward, they're all linked. They're not over there and over here and, you know, a foot there and a foot. So this is what this is about. So just bear with us, give us 5 minutes, and we'll start the next part of the session today. Thank you. Where you want?
Okay. Good morning to all. My name is Timothy Scott. I'm the acting coordinator of the NTRC. And also, I'm the person responsible for emergency communication or emergency telecommunication as an advisor to government and emergency telecommunication. With me this morning, I have the Universal Service Fund Administrator, that is Ms. Krista Buck. And we will be presenting this morning on Universal Service project and initiatives. So I will have Ms. Medford introduce Universal Service Fund, she will explain. She will give you a quite overview of universal service fund this morning. All right.
Good morning, everyone. I would like to take the opportunity to recognize the Honorable Minister, Honorable Lennox Andrew, Minister responsibility for ICT. I know that he is busy, but he decided to stay on to look at the presentation because it has impact on his ministry. So I would like to thank him for that. I would like to recognize the Chairman, Mr. Vincent Roberts, Mr. Bevel Wooding, Ms. Pettifer Lewis, and all the representatives from the business community here this morning. This presentation, as my colleague mentioned, is just to summarize the Universal Service Fund and to zero in on the project, specifically the public safety project, because this is the most recent initiative that we have been involved in. So the presentation would look at the overview of Universal Service Fund, so just to look at the outline. So the next slide, please, presentation outline. So we look at the overview of the Universal Service Fund, thank you. Public safety communication system. We would look at the two components that falls under the public safety communication system, that being the digital trunk radio system and the GMDSS DSC system. Don't mind the acronyms, we will explain as we go along. So firstly, the overview of the Universal Service Fund. Next slide, please. Thank you. So the Universal Service Fund was established in 2000 by the Telecommunications Act, and that is the said act which also established the National Telecommunications Regulatory Commission, which you would have heard of, responsible for regulating the telecommunications sector in Grenada. As part of our mandates, we are responsible for the administration and management of a universal service fund, which consists primarily of contributions from our telecommunication providers. In 2009, so while it was established in 2000, it wasn't until 2009 that the Universal Service Fund regulations came into place, and this is where we had the framework to enable us to officially start the Universal Service Fund through collection of contributions and also implementation of projects. So just to highlight some of the projects we would have executed over the few years. So the Universal Service Fund, as we see promulgation of the regulation, and it's primarily focused on expansion of telecommunication services to what we deem our unserved and underserved areas, institutions serving the public needs such as schools and hospitals, maritime areas, as well as special interest groups. So when we speak of unserved and underserved areas, we speak of areas that either do not have internet connectivity or do not have the infrastructure available, or locations where the infrastructure is available, however, the utilization of that is very limited. And as a result of that, the NTRC would be guided in terms of the implementation of projects to address what we call those infrastructural gaps. So the first project we had in 2011 was the Community Access Point project. At that time, based on research that we have conducted, surveys that were executed, we recognize the importance of establishing CAPs in communities where persons can go to these facilities to be able to access the internet. What is important about this project is a training component that was attached to it. Why? Because we recognize that one of the hindrances of utilizing the internet is the knowledge to be able to do so, and hence the reason we would have had training among different community groups, community-based organizations to create uptake in that project. We had the Girls in ICT. This is an ongoing initiative that we typically have, basically engaging girls to empower our girls and young women to become more involved within the field of ICT. And this is under the ITU initiative of International Girls in ICT Day, which is observed April of every year. And as a result, in observance of that, we usually have a number of initiatives. We'll have had robotics competition, seminars in terms of careers that is available within the field of ICT. We had a broadband infrastructure project to establish a broadband infrastructure in two underserved communities of Munlong and Davi, and that was done in 2013. We had ICT for persons with disabilities, providing specialized equipment and connectivity for persons with disabilities in Grenada. We also had a public Wi-Fi, providing wireless internet access at public locations throughout Grenada. We also provided internet and connectivity as well as devices for the T.A. Marisha Community College as a tertiary institution to ensure that the institution is well equipped with the devices and better able them to provide their courses that would target the needs of the market through reliable devices and also devices that's relevant to what's going on in the sector. Network connectivity to health centers, so ensuring that all of our medical stations, our centers are connected so that persons and particularly those in the health industry can be able to access what we call the health information system as part of information sharing. We also had a solar-powered ICT center, and this center in Gut, St. Andrew, would have established a center powered by solar and also have devices as well as training for persons with disability. Of course, because we preach about persons with disability, we also had to ensure that the center was accessible to persons with disability, and so the center had to be retrofitted to ensure that persons can utilize the center, whether it's a wheelchair or persons who are blind and visually impaired. So again, this look at inclusion. The mesh network to schools, where the NTRC funded distribution of access devices to all pre-primary, primary, and secondary school throughout the Tri-Island state. This includes both public and private, and this was a partnership with the CASI project, who was able to provide the connectivity, and the NTRC would have come in with the last mile access devices to ensure the distribution to the community. We had ICT to NULO, similar to the TAMCC project, but this one targeted the New Life organization. And this year, what we had, the digital trunk and the GMDSS, both falling under the umbrella as what we call a public safety system. So what does public safety communication really mean? Next slide, please, when we talk about public safety. Public safety communication is typically designed for government and emergency officials to coordinate activities in the event of a disaster and or emergency. And I think as Grenadians, we can all relate, particularly with Hurricane Ivan and Emily that would have happened a few years ago. And this system would enable unified communication among emergency services and government to improve preparedness, safeguard lives, and minimize damage to properties. As part of this project, next slide please, thank you, the NTRC conducted a consultation with the various agencies to determine where they are at and what are their needs so that we can develop a system that will be tied to the needs of these agencies. And what we found as part of that consultation is that there were a lack of centralized control during the event of a disaster or emergency, that there was a lack of interoperability across the public safety agencies, that there were high operating costs through utilizing the commercial network of the service providers, and also the speed in terms of sharing information to inform decisions, particularly when we speak about a disaster. As a result of this, the project objectives were as follows: to deploy a resilient, secure, reliable, and robust national public safety communication system to support our public safety needs, to address the challenges of interoperability among the public safety agencies, and to improve situation awareness and play a vital role in planning and decision-making, which is critical to saving lives and also safeguarding our property. I will now hand over to my colleague, Mr. Scott, who would outline the two projects, Digital Trunk Radio System and particularly our GMDSS system. Mr. Scott.
Okay. The public safety communication system comprises of the following two projects: Digital Trunk Radio System and a Global Maritime Distress and Safety System, which consists of a digital selective calling system. The Digital Trunk Radio System is a two-way communication radio system. Next one. The beneficiary agencies of the Digital Trunk Radio System are the Royal Grenada Police Force, the Her Majesty Prison, Ministry of Health, the National Disaster Management Agencies, the National Security, Grenada Red Cross, the Met Office, Grenada Airport Authority, and also our electricity company, Grenada. The design of the system comprises of a redundancy dispatch console system. You got a primary console, which is located at the Royal Grenada Police Force headquarters, and there is a secondary console, which is located at NADMA. We have 6 radio repeater sites throughout the island to provide island-wide coverage. Then we have mobile radios, which was installed in the police vehicles, ambulance, or vehicles of public safety agencies. Base station was installed also at all police stations and all public safety agencies. Handheld radios, you will have seen most of the police officers and some of the agencies on the road with handheld radios. That is under the project as well. We also have 25 computers given to the police stations to increase their ability in terms of utilizing the internet. The police have other system, other platforms, so we try to enable them to enhance themselves as well. Tactical radio repeater backpack. These are two repeater stations. Two repeater stations that, in the case of an emergency, that if a site went down in a hurricane or maybe earthquake or something, that we can use this backpack to place at the site to continue communication, to have continued communication. And also, with the system, we have some Android and iOS application that can be installed on your smartphones. So most of the national security agencies have this software installed on the smartphones, so they can use the trunk radio system. Next slide. Okay, so the Maritime Distress Safety System is a civilian communication system aimed to recognize emergency and threat and increase resilience at sea. So here is generally to provide safety to the fisher folks or the maritime industry. And that is in accordance with the International Maritime Organization, that's IMO, since of 1999, which provide GMDSS for worldwide coordination maritime distress, and is designed to provide rapid transfer of distress information from vessels in distress. So with that system, vessels will be able to communicate with a search and rescue center, which will coordinate the operation in terms of rescue. And here in Grenada, we have the Grenada Coast Guard, Port Authority, Fisheries is responsible to do most of the coordination, as well as the system are capable to provide communication. Once the signal went off, vessels in close vicinity with that vessel will be able to collect that information as well too, and able to assist in coordinating the rescue. Next slide. Okay, the benefits of the system. As I said, he had the ability to alert or search or rescue authorities ashore, especially like Grenada Coast Guard, so we alert them to able to coordinate rescue at sea. The Grenada Coast Guard Fisheries Authority, I said so before, and also provide communication to vessels in close vicinity. Right. Under the GMDSS system, the beneficiary agencies under the system are the Grenada Coast Guard, Grenada Port Authority, Fisheries Division, Grenada Airport Authority, Grenada Customs and Excise, and also, in general, the maritime industry. So these two systems, we have one for sea, which provides safety at sea, and the next one is a communication system for on land. So it's two different systems. Okay, with the maritime system, I will just go through the design of the system. The Search and Rescue Center is located at the Grenada Coast Guard, and we have a backup Search and Rescue Center again at the police headquarters, because we are looking for redundancy, that if one system goes down, that the next system is capable of handling that distress call. We have two coastal stations. So we have one in the north of the island to take care of the northern part of the island, and that extended over to Carriacou, Pittimatnik, up to St. Vincent. And then we have one located at Grenada to take care of the eastern coast and to the southern side of the island. The maritime channels used for DSU was channel 70. Channel 16 is always known as the International Distress Channel, and also to complement what fisheries have before in terms of the communication channels, channel 85 and 86 are also being integrated to that system. So therefore, they can have redundancy in the system and have island-wide coverage once they're at sea. Here I have the subscriber units or the user equipment. It consists of fixed equipment, which can be installed at the ship, mobile, and also portable. So for fixed are those what we have installed at different fisheries landing station, mobile on the vessels, and then we have portable user equipment as well too. Here I have a map showing the coverage out at sea. Roughly the system is a VHF system, and it's able to cover roughly about 20 nautical miles out of sea. So thank you very much. And before I go, I do encourage the government of Grenada to assist us in terms of pushing those projects as we go along, make full use of the project, make full use of the system, because safety at sea is very important, and also coordination of disaster relief is something very important as well too. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Scott and Mrs. Medford. I see we have some gender balance, which is, I know for some people that's very important. Thank you, Mrs. Medford. Well, Vincent, the secret is out. Mrs. Medford and Mr. Scott just let the secret out. So I know there will be a lot of questions, and we will spread the word because we like to chat. But I want you to hold your questions and your comments for now, and we will bring Mr. Kalawat to do the next presentation. I hope I didn't butcher that.
Emergency, good afternoon.
Thank you.
I'm going to transfer your call.
Emergency communication is an important element of public safety management for a country. That's why the National Telecommunications Regulatory Commission, under its Universal Service Fund, funded a public safety digital trunk communication system project. This network will enhance emergency communication among public safety agencies and first responders, enabling better response to day-to-day emergency and in the event of a disaster, increasing the potential to safeguard lives, protect properties, and improve national security response.
Sidimasiu.
A project of the Universal Service Fund, expanding telecommunication to underserved communities and institutions serving the public needs since 2010.
Thank you, NTRC.
All right. Thank you. Good morning, and it's my pleasure to be here this week at the ICT week here in Grenada. And just going to talk very, very briefly about digital transformation in the Caribbean. And I'm going to skip past some of the theory, at least, and really spend a couple of minutes looking at digital transformation in action. We're going to specifically look at some public utility transformation has taken place in some work that we would have done just to be able to illustrate some of the value and benefit. Fortunately, the considerations here are falling nicely into an enabling environment that I heard the minister speak so passionately about. So significant progress, certainly in the context of Grenada, has already been made, and initiatives and projects to drive further transformation will have the kind of runway that is necessary to facilitate that. So if I could just get this to move. All right, so talking here as so Nuco is a software company located in the US with a Caribbean office in Port of Spain. We're really focused on providing software to facilitate and enable digital transformation through primarily workflow automation to facilitate enhanced field operations and analytics. So capturing data and being able to make use of that data in particular kinds of ways. And it's very easy to talk a lot about data and the power of data, but in order to really make the most use of that data, there are things that you're going to have to actually be able to do to enable that. So we're going to look very briefly at particular kinds of examples around that, and this has a big delay, so when I think I am changing, I am actually not. Oh, are you doing it? All right. I modified. All right. I thought I was controlling it from here. I guess I am not. All right. If you could, can you give me control from here? No, you can't? All right. Well, then skip these slides because I need to shorten the presentation. I need to compress the time. So, all right, yeah, good, thank you. So I was going to talk a bit about definition of transformation and challenges associated with it and so on. We've skipped past that because I think the government here is doing a very good job around providing that sort of the vision that's necessary to drive that. So we want to look at really what's the return on investment on transformation or embracing change through transformation, because transformation really is essentially about change. We heard earlier today about the imperative of the Caribbean in general becoming more competitive. We heard earlier today about citizen and visitor experience and how imperative those things are, especially as part of our wider economy. But Bevel made mention of the fact that statistics don't mean anything unless people's lives are actually impacted and it's something that they could see and experience. So citizen and visitor experience are critical things. Transformation, of course, is going to drive innovation and growth. So we could identify quite easily key benefits or key areas of return on the investment that has to be made in digital transformation in terms of efficiency, innovation, competitive advantages, cost, resilience. And resilience, of course, now is a really big word and has importance coming out of the pandemic. So the ability to be agile in that regard and to be able to withstand shocks. All those are big returns that we get from embracing the transformative process that technology will bring. Next slide, please. So I want to look at a specific example of digital transformation in action. We'll take the opportunity to look at electric utilities as that specific example. So next slide as well. So I guess all of us are very familiar with a lot of the industries here in Grenada and of course across the Caribbean. And I'll say that it's not just a Caribbean issue. Utilities like electric companies, water companies, all have challenges dealing with manual, time-intensive, and time-consuming processes. And, these manual approaches lead to increased safety risk, inefficiencies, errors, inability to effectively leverage data that lives within the context of all the work that's taking place. But because they're all manual, because they're on paper and they're in files and maybe in somebody's head, it's not really possible to make the most use of that or to affect the operations in any particular kind of way. Next slide. So what we could say is that utilities can embrace this transformation to help make their field operations safer, more effective, and improve the service being delivered to its citizens by doing some key things, right? Practically digitizing high-use processes, using digital forms for capturing data, and being able to digitally or automatically assign tasks and track the status of those things. Being able to bring those things together allows a utility to be able to operate much more effectively and enhance the service that gets delivered to its customers. Next slide, please. So we would have we've implemented a solution like this in the United States for power companies. I'll just add that all the software is actually developed here in the Caribbean and being used by in the US. So transforming the utilities provides for a set of these same benefits that we'd have identified in terms of ROI, but specifically with regard to the operations of a electric utility. So safer operations, the ability to automatically assign tasks, working in a mobile environment, so when people are out on the field, they're able to continue their work, receive their tasks, fill out forms, submit data, etc. Being able to manage the requirements for documentation, which is never ending, and driving, very importantly, and in the US is a critical thing, the ability to make sure that safety policies and standards are being adhered to, maintained, and updated. Next slide. So I'll end by repeating something that I would have said earlier on, which is that embracing digital transformation is critical for us in the Caribbean because we have to be able to maintain competitiveness. We have to be able to make sure that our citizens and visitors receive the best experience, and that is from mundane things like, getting bills electronically to just the way a visitor is able to interact with culture and the country on the whole, and to help us drive innovation and growth. So the ability to create new things and leverage that technology to, in terms of inventions and patents and so on, are big returns on investment for the Caribbean. And it's no longer sufficient at one level to depend on sand and surf, as we say, or energy and stuff like that. While important, the opportunity that embracing ICT in this way, not only at an infrastructure level, but in this way where we are creating intellectual property and being able to deploy that intellectual property to drive advance, export that intellectual property. All of these things represent improvement to our competitiveness, improvement to our growth, facilitate development for our people. So with that somewhat truncated presentation, I'll come to the end of the importance of the Caribbean nations embracing the change that's required that comes about as a result of our digital transformation efforts. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much for that. What registered for me is the whole question of return on investment, because I think as private sector and government, we pay a lot of attention to that. But one of the things that we don't look at when we're looking at return on investment, we have to look at also the risk and the cost to us in not addressing or mitigating risk, and also what would be the cost to us if we don't change and we don't apply the technology. On this note, I will invite, thank you very much, Mr. Kilawa, and I invite Mr. Bevel Wooding, our very eloquent facilitator, to come and speak to us at this point. And he will tell us at what point we could ask questions and make comments. So it's entirely up to him. Mr. Woodin.
Thank you very much. Should I start at this point? Thank you. I feel so nervous in front of this large audience. I don't know what to say. This is the final presentation of our session this morning, and it's called an action list, public policy priorities for digital transformation. Now remember, we are inside of what we're calling the start of a new conversation around public policy priorities to help us drive the digital transformation agenda. And several of the presenters have spoken both of the opportunities of technology, but also of some of the very real challenges. Some of those challenges we are already facing and we're already very much a part of. From infrastructure to the difficulty in transacting online to some of the very mundane issues like getting a package to go to a specific location in a specific community. So it's difficult when you get down to the nuts and bolts of it to tell people that technology matters or that the digital era or the internet will transform their lives when it is not, in fact, doing so right now. And the danger of that, which is part of what I want to get to in this short summary presentation, the danger of it is that they then stop believing. They stop believing that this matters. They stop believing that government can do anything. They stop believing that their entrepreneurs can have real opportunities except and unless they fly out. They stop believing. And if we have to have a meaningful trajectory shift, then we know one of the things that we need to do is to get that belief back into the equation, to get that confidence back into the equation that we can do these things, to get that sense or that perception that there is value in local digital solutions to meet local real-world challenges. Unless we can do that translation, then we are kicking against the goats, right? We're fighting the wind. And so a big part of any public policy discussion around what needs to be done is not what legislation needs to be changed, that needs to happen, or what infrastructure needs to be built, that needs to happen. But it's how do we get a people to believe that it is actually worth it and that we can actually do it. That's where the conversation, the questions that both Kenny and I have been receiving over the past few weeks become very relevant. Are we ready? Are we ready is not a literal question, are we ready? If you expand that question, if it was the amplified version, it would be, do you really think that we have what it takes to do all of these things that we are seeing other people doing elsewhere right here at home? That's the longer form of that question, are we ready? And so what I want to do in this short presentation is I want to look at some public policy priorities. We are not going to go in depth into it. But I'm sharing this with you so you understand the agenda for our next phases of activity. This is our commitment as regional agencies, local organizations, and international agencies. This is our commitment to tackling the problem holistically. And we are admitting upfront, very honestly and very candidly, that this is a non-trivial exercise. Right? This is not going to happen with a snap and a click or a smile and a handshake. This is going to take effort, but we are committing as a united front to taking that effort to getting there. Everybody with me? Yeah. So we're going to look at just five points for digital transformation, and I'll start with point number one. Some of these things you would have heard before. I'm just going to drill a little into what's behind it. Number one public policy priority is digital infrastructure. And digital infrastructure here, I'm referring both to the obvious, we need more pipelines for the internet to get to more communities and into more businesses and into more homes. But we need to look at that from a public policy standpoint in a way that addresses some of the very real, very vexing, very long-standing issues. For example, public policy persons in the room, we have what amounts to a duopoly as it relates to telecommunication services. We have a situation where both major telecom providers have made public regional declarations that they will not be investing in the next generation digital technologies. They've said it openly. They have given their justifications for it. They said it makes no economic sense to them. So they have made their position clear. So here's the scenario. On one side, government, people saying, we're going to build a digital economy. We're going to establish the next generation of Caribbean enterprises on the backdrop of the promise of the internet. And on the other side, the current infrastructure providers are saying, you're going to do that on last year's technology or last generation's technology. You're not going to do that on the latest and greatest because we have no interest in putting down the kind of capital it takes to get that infrastructure in your markets. That is a current debate. And I want us to be real. So if I put a point like digital infrastructure on screen, what I'm not saying is we need to put fiber to the homes. What I am saying is we need to have a serious introspective look at who needs to own the foundation infrastructure that defines our digital future. That's a public policy matter. That is not a matter you leave to private interests. Their motivations, you actually can't fault. I'm going to invest because I expect a return. For them, that return boils down to dollars and cents. From a public policy matter, it boils down to people and opportunities. Those are two very fundamentally different platforms for decision making. So, priority number one from a public policy standpoint, digital infrastructure. Digital infrastructure as defined by our investment in people, relevant, appropriate digital skills to build out our digital economy. Pipelines, those will be the actual transmission, wireless, fiber, be it 5G, 6G as some countries are already discussing, necessary to ensure that we have the digital capacity to deliver digital services. The policies that allow us to address some of the current bottlenecks like financial transactions, and then the partnerships that allow us to amplify our capacity and strength where we need it. From a public policy matter, those are your P's, if you will, that we have to put in one pod called our pathway to progress. So this is not the place to drill into it. That will be one of the pillars for our ongoing public policy forum in the weeks and months and years ahead. Everybody with me? Again, we're just dealing with the summaries. I want you to understand. Number two, open data or open initiatives. Something that has been spoken of often throughout the region, and something that, again, you go to the north, you rent a car, if those of you who drive overseas, if you go to North America or Europe, you put your Google Maps or Waze on, and you find things. Right? You find things and say, wow, the technology is awesome. Behind that technology was a public policy decision to make certain data sets available to entrepreneurs, to innovators, and to business persons. Those data sets capture things from roadways, infrastructure, businesses, and they are available for entrepreneurs, the digitally savvy ones, to build the apps that give you Waze and give you Google Maps and give you Apple Maps, etc. And then we sit here and say we want to be able to have our entrepreneurs deliver curry goat, roti, breadfruit to us wherever we are. We want our own place in the digital economy. But then when we meet with the entrepreneurs and the young software developers who have big ideas, and they start talking about what they can't get, and who is resisting them from within the same government that is saying they want the digital future enabled, then we know we have a digital problem in the real world. So open initiatives really speaks to an intention by government captured in policy format that says government data, which is held in trust on behalf of the people, should be made available to the people. That's the simple premise of this policy position. Government data that is held in trust for the people should be made available to the people. And there are policies, there are examples, there are references that can be used to make it happen. Without it, you cannot see the acceleration in the development of local services that meet local needs. From where are the bus stops to things more fundamental to security as where are the fire hydrants, police stations, hospitals, and the like. Open data is not some nice techie innovation thing. It is a foundation of the digital service industry and economy. And so, priority, public policy priority number 2, open initiatives. Open data, open government. The transparency and accountability that follows from it is another wonderful benefit, but we're not here to talk about that today. We're here to just say this is a major, major public policy priority. Number 3, digital entrepreneurship. To support the digital economy, we have to develop the kinds of public policies and incentives that create the enabling environment for innovators and our entrepreneurs. And again, this is one that is heard often in the rumblings and grumblings and complaints of business persons, young and old, when they have to deal with Caribbean business environments. It is too hard to fill in the blank. Start a business, register my IP, get access to new markets, get clientele from the government or from other major providers, get finances from the bank. It is too hard to fill in the blank. Becomes an action point and a rallying cry for public policy officials to see what can be done to enable, to accelerate, to facilitate the kind of entrepreneurship that is absolutely necessary to build out the digital future. We can't talk about local solutions for local challenges if we're not enabling local innovators to step in and fill the gap. Right? We can't. So, priority number 3, and again, this is our commitment to the next stages of this initiative that we're saying is ICT Week Extended. It's to put a focus on the kind of policy support that needs to come from various ministries and from the very top to actually enable digital entrepreneurship. Right? We have all of the elements. You would have heard it in the speeches yesterday and today. We have schools, we have the Coding Academy, we have government making statements necessary and essential about a commitment to building out digital skills. But we have impediments and we have walls and we have obstacles that need to come down. And to bring them down in an effective manner, we need to have strategies, intent, and commitment to taking them down. So that's our number 3. Number 4 out of 5 is digital leadership. I made the point earlier that people hear better when they can see. When they can see examples, when they can see references, when they can see patterns, when they can see opportunities that look like things that they can grasp. When they see those things, then they believe that they too can be a part of the revolution. That they too can, yes. Let me pause and repeat that accidental statement, that they too can be a part of the revolution. For those in the room who know, you know, right? That they too can be a part of the revolution. And for us to do that effectively, we actually have to handpick, strategically select in different areas, sectors, and industries, those reference points to inspire others. Who are going to be our digital champions in agriculture, in tourism, in technology or telecommunications? Who are going to be the voices and the evangelists who are not only talking but doing? And how can we enable them? What is the support that needs to go to those persons, those institutions, and those governments that does not rely on 3 quotes and a skewed procurement process? Hey, sorry, real talk, right? Real talk. If we want to see this change, the policies need to support these things. So I've put as number 4, digital leadership. And I am interpreting leadership in this context as models or references that can serve as inspiration and attraction cause to others. Let's help the ones who are already, with all of the hardship and all of the resistance and all of the trouble, who are already showing their commitment and resolve to pressing forward. Let's accelerate them and hold them up as our examples. We heard yesterday from, for example, the Grenada, the NTRC and the project with the Grenada Internet Exchange Point. Everyone else in the region who is involved in that business of internet traffic exchange knows that Grenada is the best. Like, there's no debate. That is statistically proven to be a fact. But if you make a general poll within the tech community or outside of it, Grenada IXP, Grenada IX what? IX what? Again, another well-kept secret that needs to be held up and celebrated as a model that all can follow. And the last point, point number 5, and if you look at these in sequence, you can see how each builds on the other. Infrastructure, open initiatives, entrepreneurship, leadership, and then from that place where those blocks are established, global positioning. Public policy point and priority number 5, I'm putting as global positioning, signaling to the region and to the world that we are in fact ready, that we are in fact able, and that we are in fact serious. And that has to be done in some very deliberate ways. My colleague this morning spoke about the fact that for the internet organizations, ARIN, the American Registry, LACNIC, the Latin American Internet Registry, ICANN, the corporation responsible for domain names, there is what they call a bottom-up process in which stakeholders are allowed to speak into, shape, and define the policies. But when those points of assembly and decision-making take place, the Caribbean is seldom present. Our voice is not heard, or not heard as loudly as it ought to be heard. So when I say global positioning, don't just think in terms of flag waving. You ready now? That's part of it. We have to shout about what we are doing and what we are achieving. But the other part of it is we have to be present where decisions are being taken concerning the global future of the platform that we are pinning our development hopes and aspirations upon. We have to be present in those fora where decisions about domain names that will then impact our industries, or policies that will then impact our networks, or strategies that then will influence our own ambitions and plans. Where those decisions are being taken and there is a space and a seat for us to take, we should take that space and that seat. Now, again, this is public policy talk. What does that mean in practical terms? It means when an officer participates in a meeting like ARIN or ICANN, and they come back to ask for permission to go to the next meeting, and they are told, well, you went to the last one. Give somebody else a chance. But in those fora, there are persons, there are representatives from other territories who have been in that seat for years, learning the ways, understanding the inner workings, making the networking relationships, creating the relational connections that allow them to wield or yield true influence. And we are saying to our people, you could only go once. Give somebody else a chance. Breaking the continuity chain, diminishing our capacity to influence the trajectory of the thing that we are saying we want to build our future upon, we are compromising our own development agenda. So, again, policy priority number 5, global positioning. The practical outworking of it, policies that actually allow us to be represented on the global stage in a persistent or consistent way so that our voices can not only be heard, but respected. Everybody with me? This is a commitment of the team. We have the support of the chamber. Can I get a hoot-hoot from the chamber president? This is where we're going. We have the commitment from the government. This is the government agenda, elaborated from a slightly different perspective. We have the commitment from Grenada's greatest kept secret, the NTRC, right? And I hope we have the commitment from you. good people, not just representing ministries and companies and organizations, but representing Grenada itself. Citizens, when you take off your corporate hat, mothers, fathers, sons, daughters, who have a stake in this future that we're describing. You may not know the wireless frequency required for a boat thing. I have to say thing because sometimes you hear these presentations and you only want the part that says, if I were in a boat out there in the sea, somebody could find me. You're not really interested in the spectrum and in what kind of radio and who did what and what policy NTRC is working on. You just trust that somebody somewhere is dealing with that detail. But for us, ordinary ones, the thing that we really want to know is that our future is taken care of and we're not going to get blindsided when we try to do the things that matter to us. And I'm saying, and I'm connecting that basic, reasonable desire to a responsibility for public policy makers to make the kinds of policies that actually enable our digital future. Thank you.
Thank you, Bevel. I see you skillfully move away from the mic and left me to do this bit. You're smooth. At this point, let's get a round of applause again to Bevel. Very often we have these engagements and we walk away wondering what's going to happen next. So I think Bevel nicely summarized the points in terms of public policy agenda to give us some things to think about and somewhere to start and to continue in terms of addressing the issue of public policy agenda. At this point, I would like to point out that there are two mics, one to my left and one to the right or center, and feel free to go to the mic, pose your questions, make your suggestions, because this is about us sharing, not just presentations being had, but for us to share as well in terms of how we want to see us as a country move forward and the policies that we want to influence in moving forward. And don't ask me any questions. I am only facilitating. So we have the experts who would respond. So who wants to go first? Now, the quicker we ask, the quicker we contribute, is the quicker we go for lunch. And the lunch is waiting. But we have to have some discussion first. Thank you very much. Just identify yourself and shoot.
Hi, my name is William Stuckey. Your minister.
Is it on? We're not hearing. It's on, but yes, adjust, yes.
Hi, my name is William Stuckey. Your minister spoke to the concept of public Wi-Fi. I noticed that there are a number of Wi-Fi access points here in the Grenada Trade Center, and all of them are locked with a password.
I think we'll take note of that. Thank you.
You're here first, so you go.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much. There's no better place to be now than I'm in Grenada. I think it's a lovely week and I really enjoyed it. I'm from St. Lucia. I have a concern, a big concern rising out of a concern a couple of years ago, I heard. It was George Lamin that said in a lecture, the role of writers, intellectuals, and now I think because of the time he said, now I would hastily add internet regulators. And he was making the point, I gathered, that it's either the Caribbean or the service station. And in our discussion today, we spoke a lot about development, and we are doing fine. But in essence, I'm saying it's either the Caribbean or nothing, or the service station. So I'm asking, and it's a concern that we should really, in whatever we do, make it the larger objective. And I know you're moving there, so I just want to repeat, the larger objective, in seeing it as a bigger picture of the Caribbean. Otherwise, it will just be what is said, or a service station. The other point I raised, and Madam Chair, I heard you applaud the other comrade lady for gender balancing early on. I think I heard that. But when I was looking at the USF program, I see 5 times girls in ICT. So I was wondering, in going forward, is all of us, is all our way, a one? And if you have 5 and none, there's no more gender balance. Thank you. This was that point, but I think it's a very good time in Grenada today. I very accept, and I had a wonderful time. There's no other place to be than in Grenada today.
I noted it's a token, but we're getting there. We're starting at some point, okay?
Morning, everybody. I am not once again, I'm not a politician, neither am I a government rep. But context-wise, as it relates to the region, Grenada is part of the Eastern Caribbean. My own personal belief is that the O in OECS is time to drop the O and say Eastern Caribbean states. And I say this in many forums throughout the region. The truth is somebody has to start it. Somebody has to, pioneer the way, put skin in the game. Yes? And there are different initiatives that would have taken place in different countries in the Eastern Caribbean. I also have a pet peeve with the rest of the Caribbean, that I believe that if the Eastern Caribbean Union don't get itself together, then CARICOM as a whole would not be as effective as it ought to be. And so in context, we have to move forward and can move forward like one hand. All the infrastructure, most of it at least, in terms of legal framework and policy, sits in the OECS Commission. We have to be advocates. We have to tell our politicians that, listen, we spend all this money given to that organization to create pathways for ourselves to make it better. You name it, it's there. From customs to education, you name it, it's there. In the pandemic in particular, yes, the initiatives that could not have been done, albeit for the fact that the Eastern Caribbean Commission has that network that it allowed, yes, us to be able to even feed some of our own members. But the conversation has to be had, and it starts with us to say to our policymakers, yeah, that is what we have to do. Yes?
Yeah. I find today very impactful, but there's something I want to share with Grenada, is that for every event, there is unseen processes. And we must focus on focusing on the unseen process. And the unseen process that I picked today is that there is, I think, the chairperson from ARIN, though his comments were brief, but they were very profound, like all other comments, that we are on a journey. It's a journey towards development. And I really want to celebrate this time that in Grenada, the prototype is there. The environment, though not seen, the season itself, especially after June, you could feel that things are now possible, that they're doable. But I think a lot of people have not yet embraced that reality of how transformation actually works, and what this particular week is doing is planting a seed of using information communication technology as a seed of achieving sustainable development. The most important thing is for Grenada to adopt and embrace a new language for development. And that's why you see information communication technology is the unseen connector, is the unseen blood flow, because you can't see it. It works in a very mysterious way, but it's very real. So I'm encouraging each person in this room that the possibility is real. It's no longer futuristic, it is now. Grenada is redefining its starting context in terms of sustainable development goals. But we have to be very intimate with them. So I want to give you the structure of the sustainable development goals so that each one can find a way of connecting to each one of them at intimate level, and then be able to say, all this that's been said from a public policy perspective, from an individual, even as a business, what part do I embrace? So let's go through them. So the world has met together in 2015 in September and came up with 17 development goals. But they have a structure. 1 to 15 is what needs to be done. 16 is the environment that has to be there for these goals to be achieved. And 17 is the partnerships that need to come. So Grenada is very strong on 16, which is peace, justice, and strong institutions. It's where you have peace, you have development. Where you don't have development, you don't have peace. They're very interrelated. But if we look at how we're going to use ICT for SDG number 1, no poverty. 2, zero hunger. 3, good health and well-being. 4, quality education. 5, gender inequality, which explains why there's girls, because it is the SDG number 5. 6 is clean water and sanitation. So if you look at what Kevin was talking about, the application of utilities in monitoring and bringing metrics and analytics to services. So 6 is your clean water and sanitation. 7 is clean energy, affordable energy. How are you going to use that, and how are you going to do these things to drive the economy, which leads to SDG number 8, which is decent work and economic growth. And that's why the minister could relate with the language that is coming out of here. And 9 is basically your innovation, infrastructure, and industry. And 10 is basically reduced inequalities. I know you want me to finish, but I just have to go through. And 11 is sustainable communities and cities, which we have. And 12 is, of course, responsible consumption and production. And 13 is climate action. 14, life under sea, as you had, maritime things, and life on land, which is what we're doing. All things, Grenada is prototype ready. So I just want us to embrace the possibility that this week we'll be planting the seed of the harvest that we're waiting for.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And with that, we'd like to thank all for coming out today. I hope that... Oh, sorry. Gender.
One more question.
So, I'm sorry. I'm very sorry. Yes, please.
Right. Good afternoon, everybody. So I myself am a young person involved in a lot of things. But when it comes to certain websites, in particular government websites and all these other things that we might want access to, the security of these websites is often questionable. So there are certain times when you access websites in Grenada in particular, and it says this connection is secure or it's not secure. Would you like to proceed? So I want to know how we're supposed to take this in good faith and have trust in things like this. And then based on where we are located as a region, things like Netflix and Amazon Prime, we don't necessarily get to benefit from the full bundle that we're paying from. So within the ICT sector, I guess, how are we going to get access to things that we're paying for, things that, you know, we need to function, basically?
Good question. Stay here.
Okay, great. Brent McIntosh, representing today the NTRC, and also my personal business, MCNet Solutions. So to answer your questions, I mean, these are great questions. First off, I can't tell you everything today. I'll probably speak to you after. We are, however, working on new security features for the government and eGov and their commerce websites. So some of the issues you have seen in the past is because of the work we're doing. Secondly, we do understand the issue of digital certificates in security, and I don't want to get too technical, but of course these needs to be renewed, updated, and our DNS guy is right here, and I was hoping he was going to come to answer that question, but we're actually working on a new project to fix all those issues. So just give us a little bit more, and those will be taken care of. Your second question, if I got it right, as it relates to access to global e-commerce sites and access, Grenada doesn't really have a big problem, all right? But it comes down to, and one of the things we may hear from Aaron on having your local IPs registered to you, and not, and those geolocation issues we have when, we have IP addresses being used in places where they were not registered to. That's sometimes part of the issue. These e-commerce websites blacklist your connectivity to them, right? For a lot of reasons, sometimes being fraud. Grenada doesn't have a big issue as compared to other islands. And actually, we're pulling stats right now to do that comparison to see how we can improve that. So these were great questions, but there's things that are being worked on. So I'm glad you mentioned it, and we'll talk some more about it in tomorrow's tech session.
And
Hi,
just to add to what Brent said, if you're onshore, that's where we come in. The CSERT, you give us a buzz, we check it for you. That's what we were set up for.
Yeah, sort of related to that question, and while not Grenada specific, but for the wider Caribbean, and since we're streaming, then it kind of applies. In some cases, those issues require government policy. We see sometimes you have government websites that is a somethingdepartment.com, or you see government emails, department of so-and-so at gmail.com, minister of so-and-so at gmail.com, and so on. And anyone can set up those addresses. There is no authenticity that it's a government department, especially requiring you to enter information when it is not from a government site. And for those of us who understand the domain name system, you cannot get for example, a gov.gd unless you are officially government. You cannot get a govt.lc or gov.lc unless you're authentically government. So with government policy, ensuring that any government agency must be behind the official government moniker, government emails coming from official government sites helps with the idea of security, for people to feel relatively safe that they can provide their information to those sites. They can provide communication. You receive a communication from something that says from Inland Revenue, and to know this is an actual government department. During COVID, for example, we saw cases where a government agency was asking for submission related to COVID, so health submissions, personal information submissions, and it was not from a government website or a government email. So the question is, who is that from? Who is sending that information? So in some cases, you must have government policy, and by extension, businesses also need to ensure that they do have the official business name, and that's where they're using a proper business domain name and having your business email tied to your business domain name. You help with being able to seem authentic and avoid some of those questions of who is that coming from? Where is that coming from?
It's important. When you speak to when you go back to your ministries, etc., authentication, it is very important.
Hi. Good day, everyone. My name is Chad Fraser, and I represent Sonova. We're a software company here. So my comments will be very biased because I'm coming from the developer standpoint, all right? So in 1714, I believe, cocoa was introduced here by the French. And the first time I tasted Grenadian chocolate was within the last maybe 10 years, right? The St. George's University, I had to look this one up, was established in 1976. And yet we're struggling with healthcare. I think that goes to show us that merely producing the raw material is not enough. We need solutions. And I'm concerned that with the approach that we're taking with educating or developing our sector is one where it's not solutions or is not designed in a way that would facilitate the development of local solutions, right? And going back to, like, we're now thinking about introducing coding in schools, real coding, at a stage where globally developers using AI are having over 50% of the code generated. So now we're developing coders in a time when coders are less needed, right? What we should do as government is tailor our program or processes to facilitate local solution development. So one of the proposals I have is one where we make, and let me say, being here for the last 10 years, I could say that it's very difficult to partner with government on developing anything as a private sector, as a private citizen. Access is who you know, right? Having a frank discussion with anyone about a solution or developing something for the benefit of everybody is challenging. So my proposal is that we develop a mechanism, a platform, where the needs of government, the solutions that are needed can be brought out and give these young people, give our citizens the opportunity to participate in developing solutions, coming up with solutions. And it doesn't have to be technology. Here, for example, we import all our building materials in a time when one is expensive and we have a serious issue with housing. But yet we have bamboo that's wasted. It's a pest, a menace to most people. How can we leverage? So I'm not saying, we're saying technology, but I think it could go beyond that, right? But we need to create a platform that would engage local innovators, right? So they could participate in creating solutions here. And the opportunity is there to export. I always tell people, we are at the forefront of everything. Housing, we're at the forefront. Hurricanes hitting us more often than everyone else, right? If we develop those solutions, we could export.
So, yeah, not to cut you, but tomorrow at the tech session, you will have people speaking specifically to what you're speaking about. And you're speaking to the converted, because my company, in my personal business, Antillian, it's born from here, and exactly what you're talking about, we did it back in 2008 in creating solution for ourselves. So it's not that we can't do things, we have to have the willpower, yes? And it starts there. It's not even the money, it's about the willpower and the vision to be able to do it. And so we can do that in a government context also. Thank you.
Leading on from what this gentleman is saying, I come from the UK, and we do things, I think, very, very differently. Now, I remember a couple of years back, I was invited to come to a forum. Not like this, but people were seated around tables. And on those tables were all the stakeholders of, let's just say, London, with different companies, charities, housing. And we sat down for a whole day. This is how we do it. We sit down for a whole day with people around tables, including children, including college, including university, to thrash out social problems like a mastermind. This is what I am skilled in. And I'm telling you this, when it comes to policy, the locals are the last to know about it or even be consulted. And I'm telling you this, that you as Grenadians are sitting on a gold mine, and there are people that are here that have got the knowledge. You see, knowledge is when we're all together and we're all given piece by piece. And so what happened at the end of that, this one in particular was mind-blowing. We had to solve problems about crime, solve problems about housing, solve problems about health, and each table had to work on these different issues. And what we found was there was about youth and leisure and very much about their education and housing, because we had problems where young people didn't know how to even access housing. And so there were people that, you know, from two different groups came together, and we realized that if these two groups got together to work on that problem, we could solve both of the problems at the same time. So I don't know if this is happening in Grenada, but it needs to be happening ASAP. And, you know, rather than just having ministers, you know, deliberating over problems that they don't know about.
I believe
the right people in the right room coming together to solve the problems, not talking, but right, this is the issue, and let's, okay, everyone be quiet, let's write down what we think should be happening to solve this problem. Believe you me, together we are powerful.
Development of a society is important. It takes the understanding that we have to participate, and everyone have to participate. And those of us who are afraid to show our faces with fear of politicizing, yes, which is one of the biggest scourges in the Caribbean today. We have to get beyond that. And it doesn't matter. We all have to take part. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good day, everyone. I am Dr. Williams, teacher with the Government of Grenada Ministry of Education and the founder of C.R. Williams Performing Arts Academy. We operate online and sometimes we meet face-to-face. We have broken all the barriers that were said that can't be done. You cannot teach the arts online until COVID. And where I sat with lecturers in university who were doubting that the arts cannot be taught online, I destroyed that. So I'm proud to say that. Looking at it now, when I heard the presentation, I saw we are going into the digital era and we are asking about digital leadership. But I wanted to insert something inside of the digital innovative leadership, because the mindset which is critical to facilitate and allow leadership and digitization to take place is critical right here in Grenada. So if you look at, as I am passionate about education and the arts, if you look at it, we still don't have a digital museum in terms of the creative artists and the performing artists. Where can you find them, their names, their work? in that particular area. If we want to enable, let's enable. Looking at the education system, we do not have that where you can go and find a dashboard for parents, teachers, that continuous assessment where you can look at it and say, whoa, my child is failing or I am doing poorly in this area, but we are waiting on a final product, a final exam. Digitization can change that. Embracing the technology can change that. So I always come with a call to say that while we are facilitating the call and the demand and the supply, who is consuming the demand? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. This marks the end of today's session. We have some refreshments, lunch for you outside. The week continues. Tomorrow is the techie people, and on Friday, the students. And we look forward to it. The sessions are all free. So even though we say it's tech people and so on, if you get the opportunity to come and hear different angles, we specifically arranged these set of activities this way to try and capture different people. And I'm glad that to see those of you from the public sector came out. Tell your colleagues they missed something. Yeah? Information, you have to understand that if we're not informed, in short, in our language, if you don't know that you don't know, how are you going to get to say it to anybody? Yes? Thank you. Everyone, have a good day.